right?
No, not really. I mean, but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Ruining lives. And now they've indoctrinated these kids into thinking that this is the way because this is what they know.
Let's dive into one of the most explosive updates in the world of celebrity scandals, something that is shaking the very core of the entertainment industry. Have you ever wondered what kind of secrets your favorite stars are hiding behind their glossy public images? Well, brace yourself because things just got a whole lot darker in the ongoing saga surrounding Sean Diddy Combs. You might think you've heard it all by now, but this latest revelation takes everything to a whole new level. And the next big name to be dragged into the mud, none other than Jay-Z himself.
There's no vindication for me because for 4 years, I've been screaming, not just Diddy, but Diddy and Jay-Z are monsters. And the victim-making machine kept going on.
Here's what's going down. The FBI has just hit a major breakthrough in their investigation into Diddy. They've managed to decrypt a massive amount of data, over 90 terabytes. That was seized during the raid on Diddy's properties earlier this year. And what they found, it's straight out of a nightmare, with all signs pointing to a disturbing reality that reaches far beyond Diddy alone. What's worse, Jay-Z, one of the most iconic names in music, is reportedly right at the center of it.
Diddy has been under criminal investigation for months by federal prosecutors here in New York. And if there are criminal charges, many of them may look a lot like what some of these individuals have been described.
So, how did we get here? Let's rewind for a second. For months now, Diddy has been embroiled in a series of serious allegations involving some very shady activities. We're talking about everything from shady dealings to a world of exploitation that spans decades. What started as a few civil suits quickly spiraled into a full-blown federal investigation, and in March, the FBI launched raids on Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles, seizing everything from illegal items to an unbelievable amount of digital evidence.
The plaintiff. So basically what that means is the money that they're saying Diddy has to start paying this guy on October 1st, right. Diddy's team is like, hold on, we need an emergency conversation about why this should not have been granted. And they awarded him a TRO, which basically meant that Diddy's team was not allowed to sell any property in that state or anything related to what could be used to pay the plaintiff.
Now, the news that the FBI has cracked the encryption on these devices, that's huge. The decrypted files reportedly contain a mountain of evidence in the form of videos, messages, and documents, painting a disturbing picture of what really went down at Diddy's infamous gatherings, those secretive, behind-closed-doors events that some in the industry had whispered about for years. But no one knew the true scale of it until now. And here's the bombshell. Jay-Z, a longtime friend and collaborator of Diddy, is alleged to have played a key role in these hidden affairs.
Earlier. So Diddy, if you're just joining us here, was just arrested and taken into federal custody in New York tonight. Sources tell TMZ Homeland Security swooped into a Midtown hotel late Monday where Diddy was staying, and they arrested him.
The connection between Jay-Z and Diddy isn't exactly new. They've been close since the 1990s, both coming up in the music industry around the same time and building their own empires. For years, people have speculated about the nature of their relationship, with both men appearing together at high-profile events, collaborating on projects, and presenting a united front as two of the most powerful figures in hip-hop. But now, it seemed there was far more happening behind.
But after that major documentary comes out on Diddy, then you're going to start to hear more and more about Jay-Z and his nefarious past.
Let's get into the meat of this. According to sources close to the investigation, the decrypted files include recordings from Diddy's private gatherings, those notorious events that have long been the subject of rumors. These gatherings, now exposed through these files, were far more than just wild parties. They were carefully orchestrated affairs where boundaries were pushed, and some of the most high-profile figures in entertainment are now being linked to these disturbing events. And here's where things get really messy. Some of the participants didn't even know they were being recorded. Imagine this, high-powered celebrities at what they thought were private events, only to discover years later that there were cameras hidden all over the place. And not just any cameras, but cameras placed in angles that no one would ever notice. The idea was that Diddy was collecting material to hold over people, ensuring their silence or compliance for future dealings. The level of manipulation here is insane.
And a lot of the evidence, alleged evidence, that's been gathered in this case was from those two raids that were conducted on his personal homes in Miami and Los Angeles. And the indictment names the things seized that he allegedly made videos of these performances that have been named freak-offs.
What's more shocking is that Jay-Z's name is coming up again and again in these files. Sources suggest that Jay-Z was not only aware of what was going on, but may have been an active participant. Over the years, rumors have swirled about his presence at some of Diddy's most infamous events, but nothing concrete ever surfaced. Until now, the evidence reportedly shows that Jay-Z was involved in these gatherings and his participation might be more than just casual attendance. The details are still coming out, but it's said that the FBI is now preparing an arrest warrant for Jay-Z based on this new information. That's right, one of the biggest names in music could be facing charges alongside Diddy.
Jay-Z has been notable by his silence since these charges were brought against Diddy. Why do you think that is?
Because that's what he does. He starts little fires everywhere, forces everyone involved to go and carry water while he sneaks away without a response. That changes now, Sean.
Now let's not forget the sheer amount of data we're talking about here, over 90 terabytes. That's a mind-boggling amount of information. To put it into perspective, most personal computers today have a storage capacity of around 1 terabyte. 90 terabytes is enough to store years' worth of video footage, messages, and confidential documents. And apparently, every last bit of it is incriminating. These files don't just expose what was happening at these parties. They open the door to a much wider network of exploitation and manipulation.
Yeah, that's trying a criminal case in the modern times. A lot of evidence is on electronic devices, cell phone, tablets, computers, things of that nature. And the devices, especially if you have like external hard drives, and 90-something terabytes of data on a single device makes me think some type of hard drive. That takes weeks to go through just for one device on its own.
But how does Jay-Z fit into this larger picture? To understand that, you have to go back and look at his long history with Diddy. Both men rose to power in the 1990s, with Diddy establishing himself as a mogul through Bad Boy Records, and Jay-Z doing the same with Rockefeller Records. They collaborated on music, partied together, and were often seen as two sides of the same coin: ruthless, driven, and always focused on maintaining their positions at the top of the industry. But with this new evidence, it's becoming clear that their friendship might have had a much darker side. Over the years, there have been whispers about Jay-Z's attendance at some of Diddy's more exclusive events, but he's always managed to keep his public image squeaky clean. However, the FBI's latest findings suggest that Jay-Z wasn't just a bystander. Sources close to the investigation claim that some of the videos show him participating in activities that are now under intense scrutiny. The details are graphic, and while we can't go into specifics here, let's just say the footage is being described as highly incriminating.
Diddy's mom has finally spoken out amidst everything that is happening right now. Janice Small Combs provided a statement to some outlets via her attorney. So she starts off by saying it's very heartbreaking to see her son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies.
What's particularly troubling is the nature of the recordings themselves. Many of the participants were completely unaware they were being filmed, which adds a whole new layer of violation to the story. The FBI is reportedly combing through hours of footage, and they've already identified several other major celebrities who were also caught on tape. This could be the tip of the iceberg in what is shaping up to be one of the biggest scandals in the history of the entertainment industry.
You must respond. You have no choice. Harvey Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein, Robert Kelly, Sean Combs have one person in common, professionally and privately: Sean Carter.
And here's the thing. This isn't just about what was happening at the parties. The decrypted files also include messages and documents that point to a larger operation, one that involved coercion, manipulation, and even financial dealings meant to keep certain people quiet. It's been reported that Diddy and his inner circle, which now allegedly includes Jay-Z, were involved in controlling not just their public image, but also the careers of those around them. Anyone who stepped out of line or threatened to expose what was going on was quickly dealt with, either through intimidation or financial payoffs.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing.
So where does this leave Jay-Z? For years, he's built an empire that extends far beyond music. From his business ventures in fashion, sports, and media, to his reputation as a family man with Beyoncé, he's managed to keep his name relatively clean, even as other figures in the industry have fallen from grace. But if the FBI's evidence holds up, all of that could come crashing down. The arrest warrant is reportedly in the works, and it's only a matter of time before Jay-Z finds himself in the middle of a legal battle that could tarnish everything he's built.
You know, I think in federal court and for these charges, they would say it's routine, but in the public realm, this is very significant, just from who we associate Diddy been and everything we've seen him do over the decades? Like you said, this is quite the downfall to go from, I mean, we saw the mansions back in March that were raided by the feds. So to go from living in those mansions to being in a jail cell, right?
What's also interesting is how this new development might affect the public's perception of Jay-Z. Up until now, most people have viewed him as a shrewd businessman who has stayed out of trouble while others, like Diddy, found themselves caught up in controversy. But with this new evidence coming to light, people are starting to ask some very serious questions. Was Jay-Z always this clean, or has he been hiding in plain sight all these years? And what other secrets might still be lurking in those decrypted files? The FBI's investigation is far from over, and the scope of it seems to be widening by the day. As agents continue to dig through the massive amount of data, it's becoming clear that Diddy wasn't acting alone. Jay-Z, along with several other high-profile figures, is now being pulled into the fray, and the consequences could be catastrophic for all involved. As we wait for more details to emerge, the entertainment world is on edge, wondering just how deep this scandal goes, and how many more stars might fall as the truth comes out.
Those situations lend to maybe some issues with tampering. And I do feel like there are victims who are scared to come forward, including my client. She was very nervous about if he was going to get bail this week. And once I told her, and then come after people, including her and some of the other individuals, and she was very relieved when he did not receive.
And here's another thing to think about. What happens if Jay-Z is arrested? This could trigger a chain reaction, with more people coming forward to share what they know and more evidence being uncovered. We've already seen how quickly things can spiral once someone is brought down in a scandal like this. Could this be the end of an era for some of the biggest names in music? Or will they somehow manage to escape the fallout just as they have in the past? One thing's for sure, this story is far from over. The more the FBI uncovers, the more questions arise. And with Jay-Z now reportedly in the crosshairs, the stakes have never been higher. What happens next could change the face of the entertainment industry forever.
That's the one. I think that we just got caught up. I think we all got caught up in a moment. We was talking about it and having secret meetings.
As the investigation continues, one question remains. Who else will be dragged into the spotlight? If Jay-Z is implicated, what does that mean for the others in his circle? The files decrypted by the FBI are reportedly just the beginning, and with more evidence coming to light every day, we could be on the verge of uncovering one of the biggest scandals of our time. And who knows, by the time this is all said and done, we might see even more names added to the list of those facing serious consequences. Now that the FBI has uncovered such incriminating evidence against Jay-Z, the conversation shifts to who else might be implicated in this spiraling investigation. And while Jay-Z's name is grabbing all the headlines right now, he isn't the only major figure feeling the heat. As the decryption of Diddy's files continues, whispers about other celebrities with long-standing ties to Diddy, particularly Usher and Justin Bieber, are getting louder. You might think these are just rumors, but in Hollywood where smoke lingers, there's often a fire smoldering beneath the surface.
Didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand.
So let's talk about Usher for a moment. His connection to Diddy goes way back, and now it's looking like that relationship may have been much more complicated than anyone ever realized. The world first got a glimpse of their friendship when Usher was still in his early teens. At that time, when he was barely entering his mid-adolescent years, Usher was sent to live with Diddy as part of what some in the industry described as an education in stardom. He was signed to LaFace Records, but to give him that edge needed to break through in the competitive music world. Usher was handed over to Diddy to learn the ropes. But what exactly did he learn? According to an interview Usher gave years later, living with Diddy was a wild ride. He famously said, "I got a chance to see some things. I went there to see the lifestyle, and I saw it. It was pretty wild." Now looking back at the revelations we've got today, those comments take on a whole new meaning. Usher didn't go into details at the time, but it's hard not to wonder what exactly he was exposed to during that period. Diddy's infamous gatherings were already happening back then. Those events that people in the industry were either dying to be invited to or secretly terrified of attending. The more we learn about those parties, the clearer it becomes that they were far from harmless fun. According to sources, some of the footage the FBI decrypted from Diddy's seized devices includes recordings from this very period when Usher was under Diddy's wing. And while there's no hard evidence yet that Usher himself was involved in anything criminal, the fact that he was so close to Diddy during those pivotal years is raising eyebrows.
Dad, now, would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Hell no.
And let's not forget, Usher himself has hinted that his time with Diddy wasn't exactly normal. In a 2016 interview with Howard Stern, Usher was asked about what it was like living with Diddy as a teen. He tried to play it cool, but his evasive answers spoke volumes. When Stern pressed him about the kinds of things that went on in Diddy's house, asking directly if the place was filled with wild stuff, didn't deny it. Instead, he said, "I got a chance to experience some things, but I don't know if I understood what I was even seeing at the time." It was a cryptic response that left many wondering just what he meant by things. With all the new revelations coming out about what Diddy's private events were really like, those comments now seem much more telling.
It's getting hot. Yeah, it absolutely is. Another layer to this story, Anne-Marie. A federal investigation into Combs has been ongoing, but he has not been charged with a crime.
But Usher's connection to Diddy isn't the only one under scrutiny. Justin Bieber is another name that's been dragged into the conversation, and his relationship with Diddy is even more troubling when you look at it through the lens of what's now being uncovered. Back in 2009, a young Justin Bieber, who was in his mid-teens, spent 48 hours with Diddy, a moment that was captured in a now famous YouTube video. In the footage, Diddy boasts about having custody of Bieber for 2 days, joking that they were going to go buck fool crazy during that time. While the video was meant to be lighthearted, it's taken on much darker tone given what we know now. What kind of influence did Diddy have on Bieber during that time? And more importantly, what kind of environment was Bieber exposed to? The 48 hours that Bieber spent with Diddy were shrouded in secrecy. At the time, both Bieber and Diddy were intentionally vague about what they got up to during that period, with Diddy telling the camera where we're hanging out and what we're doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. Looking back, it's hard not to feel uneasy about those comments. A teenager, barely in his mid-teens, being introduced to a world he couldn't possibly fully grasp, under the guidance of a man now facing accusations of orchestrating years of manipulation and exploitation. It doesn't sit right. And what's more, some people are now speculating that Bieber, like so many others in Diddy's orbit, might have been unaware of what was really happening at those infamous events.
It was just an escape for me. I was just young, like everybody in the industry and people in the world who experiment and do.
And here's where it gets even more intriguing. Sources close to the investigation are suggesting that Diddy's seized files could contain more than just evidence of wrongdoing. They could also include leverage. For years, rumors have circulated that Diddy collected compromising information on his famous friends as a form of insurance, keeping dirt on those in his inner circle to maintain control over them. Could this be the case with Bieber and Usher? It's not out of the realm of possibility. Diddy was known for throwing the kinds of gatherings where anything could happen. And if there's one thing this investigation has revealed, it's that no one truly knew what they were getting into when they entered Diddy's world.
It's pretty interesting because I think, we have seen many photos, videos of Sean Combs, aka Diddy, through the Associated Press, through Instagram. And so to see him kind of in person after being in jail for 3 weeks now was pretty interesting, to say the least. And I say that by being that you would expect him to feel a little defeated, a little gaunt, anything like that. But it wasn't that case. He appeared confident. He stood tall. But
the files decrypted by the FBI reportedly contain hours upon hours of footage, including some that involves high-profile names beyond Jay-Z, Bieber, and Usher. And while many are quick to dismiss these rumors as tabloid speculation, the sheer scale of the investigation suggests that there's much more going on than meets the eye. What if Diddy was, in fact, using this footage to keep his celebrity friends in check? The idea of a network of powerful figures being held in place by one man's secret stash of compromising material isn't new, but it's chilling to think that it might be true in this case.
Different level, because I'm seeing him go from his independence to then becoming Puff Daddy, you know what I'm saying? And I got a front row seat looking at that.
And here's the real kicker. Diddy's network of influence didn't stop at just a few celebrities. His reach extended deep into the entertainment industry with ties to some of the biggest names in music, film, and business. The more investigators dig into the files, the more they're realizing just how vast Diddy's web of connections really was. Some insiders are now suggesting that the case against him could grow to include a much larger conspiracy, one that involves multiple layers of manipulation and control within the industry. If that's true, then we're only scratching the surface of what could become one of the most significant scandals in entertainment history.
Why doesn't the government want him to turn himself in? Because then they can't ask for detention. So they go and they arrest him. They arrest a guy who came to New York to turn himself in.
What's particularly troubling is the culture of silence that surrounded Diddy's world for so long. Many of the people who were part of his inner circle, whether willingly or not, have kept quiet about what they witnessed. But now, as the investigation heats up, some are beginning to speak out, sharing stories of what really went on behind closed doors. These stories paint a picture of a powerful figure who used his influence to control those around him, manipulating both their personal lives and their careers. For those like Bieber and Usher, who entered Diddy's world at such a young age, the impact of that manipulation could be long-lasting. But let's talk for a moment about the bigger picture here. This investigation isn't just about Diddy or Jay-Z or even Bieber and Usher. It's about the larger culture of exploitation that exists within the entertainment industry, an industry that has, for too long, turned a blind eye to the darker side of fame. The The revelations coming out of this investigation are forcing people to confront some uncomfortable truths about how power is wielded in Hollywood and who gets to keep their secrets hidden.
There are some problems that the defense has brought up originally, but it seems like, just from reading this 14-page indictment, that there is enough physical evidence to perhaps get a conviction in this case. We shall see. These are allegations.
For years, the entertainment world has been seen as a glamorous playground for the rich and famous, a place where anything goes as long as you're powerful enough to protect yourself. But now, with the FBI pulling back the curtain on Diddy's empire, that image is being shattered. What we're seeing instead is a culture that allowed certain figures to operate with impunity, using their influence to manipulate and control those around them. And while Diddy is the one at the center of this storm, it's becoming increasingly clear that he wasn't acting alone. So, where does this leave us? With the FBI continuing to sift through the decrypted files, it's only a matter of time before more names are dragged into the spotlight. The question now isn't whether more people will be implicated, but how deep this rabbit hole really goes. Could we see even more of Hollywood's biggest stars taken down as a result of what's been uncovered? If the early signs are anything to go by, the answer could be yes. And that has everyone, from the biggest A-listers to the most powerful executives, on edge.
This has to be a 100% culture shock. I can't imagine living a lifestyle of the incredibly rich and famous and then going into this very dark, impersonal, cold, austere facility.
One thing's for sure, the revelations we've seen so far are only the beginning. As more details come to light, the full extent of Diddy's influence and the secrets he's been hiding will finally be exposed. And when that happens, it's going to send shockwaves through the entertainment industry like never before. So, what do you all think? Is Jay-Z really about to face serious charges, or will he find a way to distance himself from this mess? And how deep do you think Diddy's influence really goes? Let us know in the comments. This story is just getting started, and we want to hear your thoughts. See you next time